And this week, for our lead topic, Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel released a new movie called The Sound of Freedom. Now, this is a true story about an FBI agent who saved a child from a human trafficking ring in South America. Now, the child's sibling was still being held captive by this human trafficking ring. So this guy quit his job, went down there, and saved the sibling. Now he owns a charity that goes around the world and works with local police departments, to conduct raids on various child trafficking child trafficking rings throughout the world. So that sounds great, right? I mean, who's against who's against stopping child trafficking, right? Well, to answer your question, the Rolling Stone. The Rolling Stone and several other major media outlets came out in full force against this movie, The Sound of Freedom. So here, I'll pull the Rolling Stone article up here. Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brain worms. The QAnon thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer. Based on a true story I heard from somewhere across the theater. I'm not going to read this retard's entire op-ed. We're not going to give him that attention. So yes, so you can go read these articles for yourself. They never actually tell you why it's QAnon. They just expect you to read the headline and go, okay, cool, yeah, it's QAnon. Cool. It's QAnon. The fact the whole regime came out in lockstep to do an attack piece on this movie that's a true story. It's not like they made it up. Now, if they made this movie about Donald Trump going in to Comet Ping Pong Pizza and saving these trafficked kids from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, I can understand why you would want to come out against that, right? Why you could say, hey, that's a little QE, you know? But this is a true story. So just because it talks about child trafficking, which, believe it or not, is a real issue in this, not just in this country, but in the whole world. Believe it or not, that's a real issue. The fact the whole regime came out in lockstep against a movie shedding light on child sex trafficking really speaks volumes. It's almost like they have something to cover for. You know, almost like the tracker that we have right here in the corner, the Epstein client arrest tracker, that still remains at 0 for those of you listening on audio. Anytime, I say this all the time, anytime you get anytime you get all these mainstream media outlets coming and left-wing Twitter influencers and all that coming out in lockstep against anything with pre-approved talking points at the same exact time, they had a meeting. They've got something. They've got some type of skin in this game. They're covering something up. They were fed those talk. It's not a coincidence that this movie gets attacked on the same exact principle by all these different mainstream media outlets. It's not a coincidence. There was a talk. People were fed talking points. So how long till we get an article from the New York Times that says child sex trafficking increased during COVID lockdowns? Here's why that's good. It's got to be coming soon, because this is the path we are on. They are either trying to normalize child sex trafficking or just sex with children, which I kind of believe they are, or they're covering for something, and we'll get into that in a little bit. You want some facts? I know a thing or two about this. I'm not blowing smoke out my ass. I've given presentations on sex trafficking. I know a thing or two about it. I've led seminars. Funny. I'm not just running my mouth on this. So here, I'll give you some facts. The human trafficking industry yearly throughout the world nets over $150 billion, which is nearly 10 times the annual income of the NFL. Now, some of you may think that the Patriots rings are illegitimate. You're wrong, by the way. But I'd say that the NFL is in a hoax. I don't think the NFL is some QAnon conspiracy theory, and this business makes nearly 10 times more than it every single year. In fact, not only does it make 10 times more than the NFL, it makes more than the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and the NHL, the 4 major sporting leagues in the United States combined every single year. That's not a QAnon conspiracy. The U.S. State Department, Joe Biden's U.S. State Department, says there are 27.6 million victims worldwide of human trafficking at any given moment. Right now, there are 27.6 million people being trafficked in one way or another. So, by the media's logic, why is Joe Biden's State Department pushing QAnon far-right propaganda? That's the logic we've been told. If you bring up sex trafficking, you're a far-right, neo-Nazi, white supremacist, QAnon conspiracy theorist. That's what they've said. Per the American College of Emergency Physicians, there are 10,000 reports, right? These are just the ones that get reported in the United States every year for human trafficking. About 10% of those calls are from the victims themselves. Is that QAnon conspiracy fodder? Should we seek out these trafficking victims and hold them responsible for spreading this dangerous right-wing propaganda? I think human trafficking victims should be banned from Facebook, personally, because they're spreading dangerous propaganda by talking about what happened, and they are a threat to our democracy. A threat to our democracy. They could very well lead to the re-election of Donald Trump, and we can't have that. It's QAnon. In Source, Minnesota, it's a nonprofit up in Minnesota. 48 hours is how long it takes the average runaway youth in the United States to be approached by a human trafficker. Now, that doesn't mean they go with them. That doesn't mean they're kidnapped. But they come in contact with a trafficker within 48 hours of running away from home. Do you want to know the average age of a child that enters into human trafficking? 12. Now, I know that's Joe's premier age. I know that's where he likes them. But isn't that a little odd? Isn't that a little odd? That's not QAnon. Those are statistics from the United States government. Those are statistics from various nonprofits. And those are statistics from medical organizations. You know, the same quote-unquote experts. You told me I have to believe everything they say, so I'm throwing it back at you now. Are they all involved in QAnon? That's what I want to know. Because child sex trafficking equals QAnon. That's the precedent we've set. This was a real movie. A legitimate, true story about a guy who's still doing this today. And they labeled it QAnon. They labeled it QAnon. Why? Why? We have to ask why. We know that it's trouble. We know it smells funny anytime the whole regime comes out in lockstep against anything. We know something is up. What we have to figure out, what's our job, what's my job, and you, the audience's job, to let me know in the comments on Rumble what you think. Your job and my job and everyone else's job, really, is to find out why they're doing this. Why are they out on the offensive? What are they doing? I saw a quote. Let me see if I can find it. From a Biden administration official today. I read this today. Biden aides say they are encouraged by data showing Americans' views can be changed by a consistent message reinforced on multiple fronts. Let me read that again. Biden aides say they are encouraged, this is AP News, by data showing Americans' views can be changed by a consistent message reinforced on multiple fronts. This is the state media, a consistent message. Child sex trafficking awareness equals QAnon, enforced on multiple fronts. Rolling Stone, CNN, left-wing Twitter grifters. It's right there in front of your eyes. They feed these people talking points, and they go out and they push their agenda. They're doing this in your face. They're doing this in your face. They came straight out and said, yeah, we really like how easy the peasants are to fool. It makes our job a lot easier when we can just feed a couple dumbass reporters and morons on Twitter a couple talking points, and they all just push the same thing at the same time, and you all fall for it. So I'm not blowing smoke out my ass when I say anytime the regime comes out in lockstep against something, something's up. Because they're out there telling you they're doing it now. They're out there telling you, hey, we're really encouraged that A consistent message on multiple fronts can really sway the American people's opinion. That's all we got to do. If you repeat the same lie enough times, people start to believe it. Sometimes even you start to believe it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, be sure to click the link in the description to get the full episode on Rumble. If you prefer to listen along, you could actually get us on Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also go to www.outlawstreamers.com to learn more about not just my show, but tons of other great shows and all the exciting projects they have coming up. Follow my socials at Caleb Isn't Funny on Twitter and Instagram, at Caleb Salvatore Comedy on the Chinese Spy app that is TikTok, and be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks, and we'll see you every Saturday for brand new episodes of That's Based. Peace.